Hi.
Shh, don't tell Mum.
Hi, guys. So, this is our 15-minute segment episode, and it's going to be called
Cleaning Up the Desktop.
And the reason why we wanted to bring a little bit of our relationship into our podcast, cleaning up the desktop is something me and Barney have done in our relationship for the last 4 years. It was probably when we started living together. We started to find problems in the relationship that were impacting us as a couple. And our friend gave us the incredible advice to go for dinner, get a bottle of wine, and have a note with the issues that you're facing, and basically say it like, hey, you do this and it upsets me. It will make my life a lot easier if you don't do this. And then you talk it through over dinner in a public place so you can't scream and shout at each other, and you listen to each other's problems. So on this episode, we are only going to have 15 minutes on this segment. So we want to be really, really quick. And so we're not going to give you a load of issues as a list like we would do on a day-to-day, but we'll give you one.
Ooh, just one. I think that it was an interesting thing for us to tackle when we were kind of going through the harder times in our relationship, and it did help. So hopefully, if any of these things that we discuss you're currently going through, if it helps you in any sort of way, then that's kind of the aim of this, to also bring a little bit more, I wouldn't say seriousness, but, you know, an element of relationship advice or stuff that we've tackled and overcome as a couple and that has made us stronger. And it's almost like it's a technique rather than a solution.
And we will have this will be unedited completely. There will be no cuts to this. A lot of our stuff on social media is cut. And
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
and this will be the unedited version of us. And it will be a serious side to us. It won't be as jokey as all of our other stuff that we
So
give.
my lips are sealed for most of it.
He's going to be like Chandler from Friends, and he's not allowed to say a joke or anything. It's a serious, serious matter when we have to clean up the desktop.
It is, and it's very true. Being in a public place is definitely a must-have because, yes, you don't scream and shout at each other. You sit across from each other, have dinner, a bottle of wine, and we have actually sat in restaurants just with a notebook. I have a notebook, you have a notebook in front of you, and we're just sat there reading off stuff that's either annoyed us, or we go kind of one by one.
Mm-hmm.
We try and not do more than like 7 things, don't we? We don't set an amount, but we never really go like, I have 25 things to talk to you about.
We've never had that many issues, and they've always been very, very lighthearted. Like, you always leave the bath mat down when you come out of the shower.
Isn't it an accumulation of minor things becomes a major thing?
A major thing in the relationship. So the reason why we call it clean up the desktop, because I have a thing where desktops can't be dirty, and I was like, it's like cleaning up the desktop. You know, you kind of clean it up, organize it, put it into its categories. It's like you put the issues into a box and put it on the shelf. But what we're doing is we're actually cleaning it up so we don't have to review it later on. So how are you today in our relationship? How are you feeling?
I'm good. I haven't seen you in like 2 or 3 days.
Has that been hard?
It hasn't been hard. It's just been, in some ways, it was a bit lonely yesterday because it was just me and Rocket and Rue all day. And it didn't really it doesn't matter too much because I've had moments or like days like this before. But the only difficulty was maybe, you know, with Rocket's down, Rue's been walked, and everyone's kind of been fed. And I was sat there and I thought, oh, this is a little bit boring. Typically, I would go and, I don't know, play video games, watch a film, and be absolutely fine. But yesterday, I had a bit of a moment where I thought, oh, I miss you, and I wonder what you're up to. And I text you, and you were like, I'm at work, fuck off.
It was a really, really hard. I did a week's worth of DJ gigs in 3 days. So it was pretty intense, and they had to get me on a cherry picker to get me up on the stage because I was literally in the sky DJing. So it was incredible, but at the same time, yeah, it is. I find it really, really hard being away from the baby.
Yeah.
Especially now as he's got more of a personality. I did have a bit of postpartum, and I feel like I can only recognise that now that I'm out of it. And I do think I tend to blame you a lot for the issues that I was facing when I'd had him with like the breastfeeding and stuff. And I always say it, and I know Like, even my friend said it the other day. She was like, you have an issue with the fact that you stopped breastfeeding so early. And I was like, yeah, it's because Barney was so pro Aptamel, and he was, but it wasn't that you were pro, you were just trying to understand, and I was really suffering, and you were like, this will make it so much easier. But then I resented you for stopping, and that's not your fault. So I apologise for that. I know that's not part of the clean up the desktop section of what we normally do, but I just wanted to put that out there.
No, I do. I appreciate that, because that's probably something that did upset me last week, because you said it, I think, last week when a
few
friend of yours was
times.
talking about it,
Yeah.
and you were like, well, Barney wanted me to stop. And I was like, well, I didn't want you to stop breastfeeding.
You were just very
because
pro
I just
Aptamel.
wanted you to... No, I just wanted you to be happier and to not be suffering. And so I thought, well, it's easier, and it means that I can get involved in all the feeding,
Yeah.
and it just shares the load. And if you're struggling, there is no shame in stopping breastfeeding and just cracking on with a bottle. Actually, there is no shame in it at all. Some people can't breastfeed. And that also means that it doesn't fall on you to have to breastfeed because, oh, other people can't breastfeed, so I must breastfeed because, otherwise what am I doing? It's not, everyone gets to do whatever they want
You feel like
given
a
their
failure.
lifestyle.
You do feel like a failure massively when you don't complete the breastfeeding journey. And I feel
Where
like
does that stem from? Does that stem from other mothers like shaming you if you don't do it? Or is it just a psychological thing in you?
I don't know. I think there is a lot of judgment in social media. Social media. I think there's a lot of judgment in breastfeeding because of social media. I find a lot of women are like, oh, I did it for 2 years. Look at me. And you're like, you've just made every single mother who couldn't breastfeed feel like a fucking failure.
And you also have nipples that are chewed up Cheetos, by the way.
Oh
at
my
this
God.
point.
Okay, so this is one thing that was so funny the other day. We have new costumes for what we wear when we DJ, and one of them I have beautiful dress from Jovi. It's a brand, very expensive dress. It's about £1,000 dress that they put us in. It's so low cut, but my tits are so saggy. Even from
No,
the
they're
8 weeks,
not.
no, but even from the 8 weeks of me breastfeeding, I've lost a lot of volume. So even my friend Carolina, who was on the job, our tour manager on the day, she was like, we need to fix this issue. She was like, I've only got clothing tape, but it will help. So we got the clothing tape and we taped it.
Hiked your
and
boob
hiked
up.
my tit up.
Yeah.
Because it's so low cut, you can't wear a bra with it.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God, is this what women do? She goes, yeah, this is what they do on the red carpet. I never knew this because I never really had that issue.
Yeah,
And now I
yeah.
have that issue because
I
they
wouldn't
went
say it's
big
an
and then they went
issue.
down. It's not a bad thing. I mean, they're not bad, but at the same time, they
They're just
have
not what
lost
they used to look
volume.
like, yeah.
They've just slightly changed, and I have no body issues whatsoever. But it was quite funny because I was like, "This is what they do." Oh my God! It was like a mind-opening thing. And then afterwards, the outfit looked insane, but I just
Oh,
needed
cool.
that hike up, that hoink.
You
But
need to learn the tricks of the trade.
yeah, I didn't know that. Anyway, and I completely forgot the tape was on. I woke up the next day and my tits are all taped upwards.
Tape titties.
Yeah, so but yeah, I just wanted to apologize about that. But one thing
all right.
one thing that has been upsetting me a little bit, I felt a little bit uncared for when I walked through the door today and you already had a dig at me. So we discussed this, and what did we figure out?
Yeah, I think the thing was Jamie came into the office and then came back in with like some coat hangers and things like that were in her office from before. And then I said, did you notice that I cleaned your office? And then you said...
I was like, yeah, thanks for making it a mess in the first place, even though the hangers weren't his. But I think it stemmed from, and I didn't even realize it stemmed from this, but after the conversation, I was like, where did this stem from? So when we converted this into our podcast studio, we had to remove a lot of stuff that was in here. And then I felt like it was just dumped on the floor. Whereas I thought to myself, if this was Barney's office, after we make it a mess, I always help him to put it back together, or because I'm quite a clean person. I'm very organised. I like to have everything organised. Like you'll find me going into his office, pulling everything out of his cupboard and reorganising everything. I do that quite a lot, and I expected that from you, didn't I?
Yeah, I think that in being I don't know, maybe it's a typical bloke thing or something, but when we took the equipment out of the office that was then going to remain out of the podcast studio because we didn't need it in here, it was like this really nice microphone, it was a guitar, it was stuff like that. And I thought, Jamie's probably going to want to put this stuff somewhere where she wants it. And then me just being me, I was just like, okay, well, she can deal with it. And that's silly of me. I shouldn't have done that. I should have said, like, do you need a hand with that? Or just been like, right, where do you want this to go? And then we'll just do it together. But I guess that we'd spent a little while putting all of the stuff into this podcast studio. When we were done and we like pulled your stuff out, it was only, in my mind, it was only a couple of things that gone out there. So it wasn't like a shit ton of stuff in piles, but I still should have, seen it through to the end. So sorry about that.
And that led on to 5 weeks of me being annoyed. Like, he'd come in and he'd bring his chair in and then not take the chair away, and that annoyed me way more than it should have, and I couldn't understand why it was annoying me so much. And it just built up until I came home today, and I was like, we were at each other's necks a little bit, and then he was like, well, I cleaned your office. And I was like, well, no, it's not clean. You made it a mess in the first place. And then he obviously got his back up from me saying that comment.
Yeah.
So how did we solve it?
Well, I mean, I guess that we kind of found the source, and the source of it was
because of
from
that issue.
all the way back in the podcast. I was going to say the podcast day, the day the podcast was created. Yeah, it must have just stemmed from there. So that's deep rooted in your mind of me either making a mess in your office or not helping tidy the mess in your office, then caused a knock-on effect of anything to do with your office, whether I have cleaned it or helped out or not. Yeah, but you didn't clean me back. You didn't clean it back then. So it's kind of like, what would you consider it? Would you consider it as like it was always kind of been just like ammunition stored there, or you actually just didn't know that it was there?
I didn't know it was there. So it was unlayering of the onion, as they say. But I tend to go, hang on a sec, why did that upset me so much? And then the comment that I said to you really pissed you off because you were like, well, I cleaned your office.
Yeah.
So
you feel like you've done a nice thing for someone, and then for it to then, and it's not, you didn't throw it back in my face, but you kind of were like, well, you made it a mess in the first place. So, and then I was like, well, I don't want to do nice things for you anymore then. And then it just, boom, 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 boom. And it built to a crescendo of tension.
So I just feel like if at the beginning, all he needed to do was, do you want me to help you clean up the mess that we've just made here, it wouldn't have got to this point now. So, yeah, I feel...
That's why you clean up the desktop earlier, so it doesn't build to that point.
But we would have never discussed this if we weren't cleaning up the desktop. And I feel so much better now that we sorted it out. I really, really do. I feel a lot more like you will understand me in the future when it comes to things. We'll respect each other's space, because at the end of the day, this is my space and your office is your space.
Yeah.
And being a little bit more meaningful of each other on what we like to do. Like, I like to have drawers and stuff organised. So it's just being a little bit aware of what makes... Like, we had an argument the other day about the cutlery being messy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just something little
all
like
the
that.
Cutlery, right, is in the correct place. It's all in its own slot. But Jamie's has to be in, like, single file. Like, the forks have to be tucked in behind each other in a file. I'm not going to lie, they were in the right place, but you wanted them specifically. So I said, if you want them specifically like that, you can do it.
But I don't understand why he has to go into the dishwasher and pull them out and then just dump them
in the right place.
And then I'm like, no, but they need to be categorically...
They sound dumped. They're all like, there is a fork slot, a knife slot, a spoon slot, and they're all in there.
They need to all be like spooning.
Exactly. The spoons need to be spooning. If that's some OCD kind of shit. If you need it to be like that, then you've got to do it like that.
No, but it makes my life easier if you just put the fork back with it being
It's
spooned.
not easier,
but you do it now,
Aesthetically pleasing,
but you do
but
do
not
it now.
easier.
You do it now because it makes my life a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's not on the top of my priority list, but I do it.
And you've become much better at things like that, and you don't tend to like
I've been
mess your
whipped
wardrobe.
into submission, people. Don't let this happen. Don't let this happen to you.
It's not meant to be the funny. This is meant to be the serious part.
Oh, you know what I'm saying.
But
though.
anyway, that.
But we're better for cleaning up the desktop. I feel better. A weight's
feel
been
much-
lifted.
yeah, me
I did
too.
feel a little bit of tension earlier today, so now it's a little less tense.
Thank you. And it's your turn for the next episode.
Oof.
I know. What
You're
are you
not
gonna
ready.
say?
You're not ready. See you then.
Anyway, if you are liking this podcast, please remember to subscribe and leave a comment and give it some ratings. We like 5. It's at 4.8 right now.
Someone gave us a 4-star rating. What? A biatch.
Yeah, so please give it a rating if you've listened to this 15-minute episode. It's a little bite-sized episode of cleaning up the desktop.
See you soon.